Well, a very good afternoon and welcome back to Falun for continuation of the Nordic World Championships. It's day 8, heavy snow yesterday, the conditions still pretty miserable today, but they've sold over 200,000 tickets. It's an amazing turnout for these events. Yesterday's the women's 10-kilometre freestyle, Norway of course starting as the favourites. They finished in 27th, 29th, 31st, 33rd, a disaster for them. Sweden of course getting their first gold with Charlotte Kaller, and the USA, not one medal, but 2 with Jessie Diggins and Caitlin Gregg. Astonishing results in the women's 10. Are we going to see the same in the men's 15 today? It's a notoriously difficult event to predict, with 11 winners from the last 14 15-kilometre freestyles. Anyone's pick who's going to come out on top today. The Russians and the Norwegians have shared the gold so far. Let's have a look at how things have gone so far. Well, Petter Northug now with 11 gold from World Championship and Olympic Games. Until last Thursday, none of those had come in the individual sprint. His tactics, sometimes irrational. He went for a major break on the first big climb here in Falun, passed his brother and established a decent lead as they dropped down to the base of the next climb. He then allowed Pellegrino to come through at the top of the second climb. That led to a very, very good run into the stadium for Petter Northug, and then he unleashed that devastating double pole to take the gold. He says he feels fantastic. He's missed the gold medal in the sprint before. He's got a silver from Oslo, a silver from Val di Fiemme, so finally on top of the podium. Well, on then to the skiathlon, and of course Northug starting as one of the favourites again. Colonia won in 2013 in Val di Fiemme, and he won in Sochi, and he was never far off the lead. Northug blown away, still recovering from that sprint effort. Maxim Vilikjanin, number 6, was the man who led the way back into the stadium. Harvey coming strong in the finish. It was Maxim Vilikjanin of Russia who took the gold ahead of Colonia and Harvey.
It's always hard or difficult to have a tactic before the race, and then it's always something else in the race. But I had a good feeling, and I tried everything in the Mörderbakken last lap, and was good to go. But it was a long way until the finish. But yes, I think it was the right tactic, and Vilikjanin was then a little bit stronger at the end. But I was for sure also tired from this attack.
So on then to the team sprint event, 2 in a team, and Pechikov and Kryakov of Russia, the men to watch, having won in 2013. But Finn Hagen-Krok, a man who was left out of the individual sprint, went early on. The Norwegians had decided to lay it down thick. Hagen-Krok was the man who did the damage. Petter Northug certainly did nothing to harm Norway's chances. And Northug coming home to get his second gold medal. He said he felt strong, wanted to have a fast pace from the start. That was the plan. They had tactics should it have come to a sprint finish, but they didn't need it this time around. And what about Finn Hagen-Krok? He said, I'm feeling about as good as it's possible to at the moment. We can enjoy the victory today and then look forward to more opportunities to win medals for both myself and Peter. And I'm sure they've got more success coming their way. So fantastic scenes. Kryakov of Russia just missing out. So those are the 3 races they've held so far. We have, of course, the 15-kilometre freestyle today, the men's 4x10 to look forward to, and then on the final Sunday, the 50-kilometre. It's going to be a brutal race in the classic style. Everyone looking forward to that event later on this week. But it's the 15K we'll focus on. There's a big field for this event today, and 86 starters. The last of the big names goes off number 71. That, of course, is Dario Colonia of Switzerland, the man who was on such devastating form out in Sochi at the Olympics last year. Emmanuel Royo of Spain will get it underway at 1:30 local time, so in 10 minutes' time. And, of course, Andrew Musgrave of Great Britain starts number 35. An earlier start might be an advantage today. Well, welcome back to Falun. We're waiting for the start of the men's 15-kilometre. The conditions pretty miserable here, but no snow forecast, so I don't see a situation like we had yesterday. Let's have a look at the programmes coming up this week from Falun. The cross-country, of course, first away, and then the qualifying for the ski jumping. Now, the training round for the Nordic Combined has just been cancelled, so there is some concern whether that qualifying event will happen later on today. The wind blowing just that little bit too strongly. Thursday, a busy day. Nordic Combined, cross-country, and then ski jumping later on in the afternoon, 3:45 if you're watching in the UK. Friday, that's a big one, 4x10 for men. It's going to be a packed house here. They're expecting 70,000 spectators plus for that event. That would be sensational. Saturday, again, a busy day. The women's 30-kilometre, that's the longest race that they do in the classic style. And with Calle's success yesterday, goodness knows how many people are going to turn up to watch that event, hoping for more Swedish gold. And then on Sunday, the finale, the only event, the men's 50-kilometre classic style. As hard as any race they'll do this season. So, Per Elofsson has been our local expert on site all the way through the championships so far. And it'd be nice to get his insight into this men's 15-kilometre. And he's been chatting to Roberto Vacchi down on the tracks. And we'll find out what Per thinks of the course and, of course, the approach that the athletes take. So the 15 free, says Roberto. Per, the athletes on their own today, what are they thinking about before the start? Per says it's all about psyching yourself up for the start, getting focused on producing the fastest splits all the way through. Some of them want timings early, others want them when they've settled down into the race. But that mental preparation beforehand, absolutely vital. Do the skiers know exactly where they're standing during the race? What's the big picture when you're out on the tracks? Per says they usually have a pretty good idea of where they are during the race, but different racers need different information at different times just to get the best out of them. And he says, to be honest, with the crowd noise here in Falun, it's almost impossible to hear what the coaches are saying. And they have been superb so far. Are the crowds a problem, says Roberto? We're enjoying them, but what about the skiers? Says it depends on where you come from. Of course, it's a little bit, he says it's a bit weird. Not only can you not hear the coach, but you can't even hear yourself breathing, which is something that we get used to. And sometimes the coaches have to use boards, other information, other techniques of passing the information across. And then, of course, we have the tracks here in Falun. How are they going to approach it tactically? Murder Hill, they've got to go up it 3 times. How do they pace this one? Yeah, Per says Killer Hill's going to be absolutely decisive in this race. You've got to climb it 3 times. You've got to go at a good pace, but you can't afford to go too hard too early. It's going to be a big challenge, there's no doubt about it. So the 15-kilometre coming up now from Falun. This is the one that so many of them want to win, and very, very difficult to predict who's going to come out on top. Well, the tracks are ready, the early skiers are ready, and it's time to hand across to Mike Dixon and David Goldstrom here in Falun.
Thanks, Patrick. Good afternoon, everybody. Good morning to those of you with us from the United States and Canada. Mike Dixon, 6 times an Olympian at cross-country and biathlon, alongside myself, David Goldstrom. And there's a real buzz around the stadium here for this men's 15 free. Thomas Northug, a man who has won 2 medals here. He's the only athlete to have won 2 gold medals at these championships, Petter Northug. And the course there, 2 loops of 7.5 kilometres. Mike, the blue route's the first one, and again, perhaps like yesterday, a little easier.
It is. Honestly, I think it's an extremely easy for a World Championships course. Only 400 metres of climb, and a lot of that climbing coming in one hit. And you see the temperatures there, it's not soft conditions. Not the biggest challenge at World Championships, but of Killer Hill, as we saw Per saying, is once again a very important factor in this competition and how you approach that climb.
So it's a big start list, of course, 86 athletes from 35 countries, and in reality this is a very open race. The wind is quite gusty today and quite strong. It's caused the cancellation of the Nordic combined training, so in some places it's going to be in your face, in other places it's going to be on your tail. But actually this is a race which is full of superstars of this sport, as you see the end of the start list there. Now those men are men who qualified last weekend, or last week I should say, through the qualification place to take their place in the final, on the medal final of the 15 kilometres. Well, there are some very obvious contenders here today. The bookmakers have made Dario Colonia the 7-2 favourite. Finn-Hågen Krogh, who won in Östersund, 5-1, his first distant victory. And of course, Johan Olsen, 7-1. But the big difference for Johan Olsen is this time, because he hasn't had an active season, he's starting with bib 17 early. So he has a real disadvantage compared to the later starters who can live and learn off his splits. But of course, this is a big day for Great Britain's Andrew Musgrave. Up there from Huntley, and a very good afternoon to you up at Huntley. Betty, I hope you got the over 90s club there with you, with a cup of tea and something stronger. We're really hopeful, fingers crossed, that Andrew can at least cut into the top 10 for a lifetime best, and who knows, maybe something even better than that. But again, he's in a section of the race where it's bib number 35, where he's got to do his own thing, and the coaches have got to be really accurate. Now, Mike, you assessed the race with me last night. I mean, it is an open affair.
It's a really open affair, David, and the thing I love about this time trial is it's you against the clock. If this were to be a mass start, we would see some 20 athletes stuck together with about 500 metres to the finish line. Today, it's very different when you're not able to tuck in behind athletes at the same time. It makes for a very different race. And, you know, I actually favour Johan Olsen. Although he's running blind early, I do believe he'll latch on his second lap with some of the big names, and I think that'll help drag him through for a podium today.
Good afternoon. The clock is ticking towards 1:30 here in Falun in the Lundet Stadium. Mike Dixon alongside myself, David Goldstrom, and there are 86 aspirants from 35 countries looking to, if not bid for a medal, at least go for a new personal best. But amongst the stars on the track today, Johan Olsen wearing 17, he goes earlier. Lucas Bauer, 15 kilometres, he goes early. He's efficient in classic, he's efficient in freestyle, and keep an eye out for him. He wears bib number 21. And then Andrew Musgrave wears bib 35, Great Britain's best ever cross-country skier. And could he break into the top 10? We believe so. Might he go better? Who knows? We think that's also possible. Legkopf, the Olympic champion for 50 kilometres last season in Sochi. Finn-Hågen Krogh for the Norwegians. As you see, the first man lining up, Imanol Rojo for Spain. The big absentee, Martin Jonsrud Sundby for Norway. The man who was nailed on for this race. More of him as we get through the race and we talk about the other Norwegian challengers.
David, I think the other big surprise is that Ville Janin is not taking part today. I mean, we saw his form in the skiathlon. His freestyle was excellent. Clearly, the Russians are saving him for the relay and the 50 kilometre.
It is Perttu Huvarinen for Finland in his first senior world championships. He's a former junior world bronze medalist over 20 kilometers in the pursuit and 10 freestyle. So graduating into senior company.
Yeah, I mean, he was a great name at junior level. I think it was a couple of bronze medals, and he's wonderfully balanced on his skis, David, but he hasn't quite cut it yet in the senior category. Maybe today's his day.
As you see, Mikhail Semenov of Belarus. Just a word about Martin Jonsson. We had always been led to understand that he'd been training at altitude at 3,000 meters. That is not the case.
That is not the case.
No.
I confirmed that this morning.
Yeah, he actually went home and spent time with the family and the kids and everything else. And maybe, we just don't know, maybe getting involved a little bit more with the team in the final preparations would have been more beneficial. What we do know is that he's due here tomorrow, probably won't go to the relay, but if things were right, might go for the 50-kilometer, the finale on Sunday.
Yeah, as Graham Killick starts this race, the Canadian Ptarmigan Nordic Ski Club. You know, back to Sundby, David, I think we saw on the 7th of February down in Oslo, he took part in a 54-kilometer classic race, came second. When you're pushing in big races like that, 2 hours 20 of hard work on a fairly tired body, I'm amazed he did that just before a World Championships, and I think that's what's brought on his ill health.
Absolutely right, because he is the comfortable leader of the season-long World Cup. He won the Tour de Ski, and so he's had a busy season. So his preparation really needed adjusting. But he's not here, so we now pass on to the people who actually are here. And next, coming up here, we've got Sergei Dolidovich. Sergei, who wears bib number 6, represents Belarus, and he's the oldest contestant in today's race. This is incredibly his 11th World Championship. He's also represented his country at 6 Olympic Games. And Dolidovich, his best ever result was in a World Cup race in Rybinsk when he was 3rd. And another one would be 4th in the Oslo World Championships in the 30-kilometer race. That's as close as he's ever got to a championship medal. But all good feelings to him and best wishes to him for running Mike in his 12th World Championship.
Quite an amazing feat as Noah Hoffman, and let's hope the American boys today have the same spark and positivity as we saw from the incredible results yesterday.
Yeah, Jess Diggins and Caitlin Gregg last night, I mean, they were downtown. It was an absolute super ceremony for the women. Charlotte Callow, of course, who was the outstanding winner. The glow from inside her came through the makeup that she was wearing. I've never really seen for a long time someone who's so inwardly and outwardly happy at what she achieved. But the Americans, as you see, one of my favorite athletes, Chris Freeman, in his 8th World Championships. This man who back in, 2003, came 4th in the 15 Classic in Val di Fiemme. The director almost missed him, and he almost got a bronze medal.
Hey, amazing guy, and that we saw a quick flash there of Johan Olsen and also Andrew Musgrave. Everybody knows Muzzy's name around here, and he is tipped as an outsider today for certainly a top 10, and I think on a good day he's capable of a top 5, and then if you're in that area, you could win a medal.
The sky above them is not so heavy as it was yesterday, and we haven't had any predictions of snowfall. But as they go up the first climb here, 1.5 kilometres, one thing, Mike, it's very humid, it's very wet. We've had rain overnight, we've had rain today, so they've been salting.
That's interesting, and it's just past here actually, from 1.7 kilometres through to about 2.5, and I was round here twice yesterday. As you drop down here, there is water, believe it or not. It's so warm, there's like a little swamp coming through, so I know they've toughened that part of the course up. And
also they've salted on Murderbakken, which they do twice, where the pedestrian bridge is. It's about sort of halfway up, and
I think that's so sensible. Yesterday afternoon, that was coming quarter of the way up my ski boots. It was just soft and broken.
The under-23 world champion of this season, representing Germany, Florian Notz. One of the brightest finds Germany produced in the last couple of seasons as they get up the first climb. But remember, Johan Olsen wears 17. He'll be starting momentarily. And the seeded racers just underway. And the first of those was Sergei Mikhailyán from Armenia. Very promising 22-year-old. Interesting to see what he produces. And Larry Lehtinen, and we're only a minute away from Johan Olsen, the Olympic silver medalist last year in Sochi, but that was in classic style. The world silver medalist 2 years ago in Val di Fiemme over today's distance in freestyle. But the big difference, Mike, was 2 years ago, Petter Northug, who won the race, started with bib 89. Olsen started with bib 77. And today you have a situation where Petter Northug, the only person who's got 2 gold medals here, starts with bib 65 out of the 71 seeded athletes, and Johan Olsen bib 17.
He's certainly going to be the hare that everybody's chasing, and when you're getting split times off such an early starter who's starting next to Olsen, it is an advantage to be given the split times. Olsen's going to have to run it his own way, and David, he really, for me, is one of my favourites to take the title.
So here is the man. He's raced extremely sparingly this year to prepare for these World Championships, and a huge Swedish roar. Not the size of crowd that was here yesterday for Kalla, or indeed over the past weekend, but Olsen, he's such a big race achiever.
And David, we've seen him do it in the past. We've seen him go out. Nobody breaks away in a mass start except Olsen. He did it 6 kilometres at the World Champs. Colonia went with him, then fell, and then all of a sudden you had this man out on his own for the best part of 42 kilometres to take the gold medal. He is a man that can race on his own, and that's what it's about today, against the clock. And Olsen won't have slept much last night, as Kalla said she didn't the night before, but he looked like he got into his rhythm.
And the start is uphill. Actually, the finish is uphill as well in this Luniet Stadium. It is a little deceptive when you look at it at first glance. Up the first 1.5 kilometres. Now, Clement Paris for France, 3:44.2. Clement second to Florian Notz in the, second in the skiathlon in Almaty just a week or so ago, and 9th in the 15 free. Another exciting find, this time for the French team.
Yeah, very much. And the French keep on producing these wonderful young talents. They nurture them well. They don't over-race them like some countries. The Russian former world champions are then asked to do every single race, and it knocks them back a little.
Now, the next man to start, well, he's 37 years of age, Lukáš Bauer of the Czech Republic. Disadvantage, I would say, to go early, but Lukáš Bauer, bronze medal in Whistler over this distance, that was freestyle. Silver medal back in Torino in 15 kilometres, that was classic. Silver medal in Liberec on home snow in 2009. Do you think he's a back number at 37 years of age? I don't. Twice he's had 15 kilometre successes in freestyle, 6 times at classic freestyle, and there he goes.
Now, yesterday afternoon, David, when I was out, I did see Bauer putting in some extraordinary turns of pace, so sprinting up some of the climbs, feeling what it's going to be like in the race. And I was so impressed with him. I thought, well, maybe, just maybe, Bauer, 5 times Olympian, has got a chance today. I think it's an outside chance, but he certainly looked good, and of course he's well rested coming into this one.
Yeah, well, this is also an example, Mike, of a racer who's totally targeted one race in Lukáš Bauer.
Yeah, very much. And in a sense, I did wonder if Olsen and Bauer have avoided the World Cup in order, so the World Cup ranking isn't high, so therefore they start very early in the race. I did wonder if that's a strategy. You could always predict that the weather here, the snow temperatures were going to be warm and wet, and I think it's going to become slower as this race goes on.
Well, interesting thought, and as you see, Johan Olsen, surely he's going to set a new best time up this first climb. This is a busy little course. The first loop here isn't the toughest, but you're always doing something. There's not really a respite moment on this course.
That's a valid point, David, and that little descent there was, when I went round there yesterday, yes, I keep saying it's an easy course, but you're right, the respite, the resting, when you get it, the resting is huge, and when you get the steep hill, it's huge, the rest is gently up, so yes, it doesn't really allow you those recoveries that we have seen in other courses. I don't think Olsen Olsen is setting the world alight at the moment. It's okay, but he's not quite looking as dynamic as I thought he might.
Well, he'll have his own strategy, and the coaches will have had to have worked out a sort of scenario where they're thinking about what would Northug do, what would some of the other major challengers do, and where do we think our guy has to be.
I just need to correct myself, David. Paris, who had set the second fastest at that point at the World Cup at Östersund, he set all the early times. You often see that with young, enthusiastic athletes. They don't know their pacing as well. So Paris's time is probably very good, as it was in Östersund.
Yeah, but he did finish 29th in the end, so he did. He started a little aggressively.
Yeah, so I think Olsen's time in relation, 5 seconds up, is positive.
Finns haven't had much joy so far at these World Championships, and it's really sad because this is the country that really, in the list of medals going back to 1925 when the first Nordic Championships were run, is second only to Norway in the overall medal table. But, you know, their ski jumpers are in a long phase of transition, and so are their cross-country skiers. Here we are in 2015, Mike, but, you know, the disaster, the embarrassment, the disgrace of 2001 has had a long effect on Finnish cross-country skiing.
Very much. What was it? 5, 6 of their athletes and systematically from their team doctor assisted.
27 away. Sergei Ustugov, promising Russian. .53 there, Finn Hågen Krogh, who did the double in Östersund, winning his first ever distance race. He was well known to us all as a sprinter, but that was a terrific achievement for him. Johan Olsen still the fastest at the moment, up 1,500 metres, 3:39 from Paris.
And it's quite sorry, David, it's a substantial lead at that stage. There are some big and young enthusiastic names in the first part of the course.
Bauer, by the way, 9.5 seconds slower than Olsen, but we're not going to read too much into that at this particular moment. This is Bernhard Tritcher for Austria, arguably known a little better as a sprinter more than a distance racer. But we're not that far away from the start of Andrew Musgrave. He wears bib number 35. Has obviously a home in Scotland, but also in Norway, Trondheim.
And I think his journey, he went to the school there when he was, 18, 19, blended in quickly. How can you learn Norwegian in about 5 months? He's such a clever guy as Andrew as well. He's fitted in. The Norwegians love him. In fact, they want him for their own, actually, I've heard. But thankfully, he's still British. And, wish him so much luck today.
So 33, Andrei Larkov. Larkov, who got his best race of the 15-kilometre examinations this season in Östersund. He was top 15, so it wasn't a bad performance. Russians are quite difficult to fathom because they don't, in a way, work as a collective team. They're a collection of teams.
It's quite unusual, isn't it? When it used to be a system that was so disciplined and so glued to one coach, they've got the freedom now and love the freedom. But Ustugov, I think he's one of my top 5s today.
Yeah, got a third place finish in Rybinsk, which was the second of this season's 3 15-kilometre World Cup tests. Davos was the first one, that was in December. Rybinsk was towards the end of January, and then of course Östersund was just the weekend before the championships begun.
Very much, that's a great start. We often see Ustugov going strong early.
Well, our fingers are crossed, our best wishes are with him and everybody up at Huntley. I'm sure you're with us and with Andrew that he has the race of his life today, and you can see the positivity in the way that he moves out of the start gate.
It's as if he's got his sleeves rolled up, cut off his arms in a ski suit, ready for action.
And getting a really good response from the crowd, I have to say. That just shows you how knowledgeable this crowd is.
Yeah, they respect him. They know that someone from Scotland to be performing so well is an incredible feat, and they know his true star quality.
Yeah, just to remind you that he was 12th in the skiathlon, and of course he was 13th in a World Cup race in Lillehammer. So the 12th in the skiathlon represents the best race of his life. We think he can go better than that today. Now 37 about to start here. This is Martin Jaks, really experienced member of the Czech team. The height of his achievements came in Vancouver in 2010 when, as part of that Czech relay team, they took bronze. It was an amazing day for them, and that will be one of his, if not the proudest moments of his racing life.
Very much. And Martin Jaks, we've seen it so often in his career. He seems to lift his performance every time he's asked to do a relay for Czech Republic, and he often takes the first leg, and he way outperforms expectations. A team player.
42 signing on to the commitment to race nicely and race fairly. That was Rinat Mukin of Kazakhstan, and Baldov away for Austria.
Just looking, David, at 3.9. Olsen, sorry, just gone through. Now in 17 seconds ahead of Sheminov this time. Paris is third and some 20.1 behind.
Yeah, and a little earlier at the 1,500 meter point, Ustigov 400ths quicker than Olsen. 45 in picture there. This is Shurota. Many of you will remember him from the World Championships a couple of years ago when he got a bronze medal in the skiathlon. Robin Dubiar, whose season has been improving. 16th, 12th and 8th in the 15 kilometers coming into these championships. Well, still plenty to get underway. Alexander Legkov wears number 49, and here's Glursen. Now, without Sundby in the team, the World Cup leader coming into these championships, Norway have had to reorganise. So Glursen is the first of the Norwegians to go. Now, he did similarly to Finn Hagen Krogh, because in Davos he actually achieved his first distance victory, when actually prior to that we'd always thought of him more of a sprinter.
And I must say, David, when the Scandinavian Cup came here in January, I think it was the 11th of January, Matti Häkkinen, that's the only other time they've raced on this track 15 kilometres. Häkkinen was first, but Glursen was a very close second. He knows this track, he's just been brought into the team, and that's a positive aspect, I think, for his performance today.
There's Paris just going through the first 7.5 kilometres and about to get involved in the second loop, Mike. So maybe just a little insight to how that differs from the first one. The reality is not much.
Not much at all. I think that the track will be a little more broken up, but of course they're taking the same journey over the same course, and without a doubt, having all these athletes skiing on it, it is beginning to break up a little more, but the same climb, Killer Hill is in it after about 575 kilometres.
So there's Shurota, he's the second of the Norwegians away. The third one will be Finn Hagen Krogh, who wears bib number 53, and then looking for Chris Jespersen, who wears bib number 61, and finally Petter Northug, who wears bib number 65. It's a heck of a strong hand that the Norwegians have got, even without Sundby.
It is, and it's Shurota, we saw him start there, viewed, David, as one of the best technical movers in this freestyle technique. He's so balanced and so efficient in all his moves, and I must say he went off like a rocket. And he's one of these athletes as well that can have a great day one day, but then he can be down in the 30s the next day.
Yeah, no, his achievements are not prolific in the sense that he's not contesting the World Cup in a really strong way, day to day, weekend to weekend. Nonetheless, as you say, Mike, on his day, to be respected, and I think here is a really solid racer for France. Jean-Marc Gaillard, he's competed in all of the 15 freestyle examinations, but his performance graph has actually gone down in those. He was 5th in Davos and he ended up 34th in Östersund. I wonder whether he has a better chance, going in the 50.
He is a distance man, isn't he? Almost like his teammate as well, Magnifica. They love the long distance. And I must say, I thought the Magnifica did so well, and well, so did Gaillard, of course, leading the classic in the skiathlon here a couple of days ago.
Yeah, 9th he ended up overall, and now, well, one of the legends, certainly for President Putin, because he saved the face of the Russian cross-country skiing, the Olympic champion over 50 kilometers freestyle. But this will be interesting. He was 4th in Rybinsk on home snow. That was the end of January. He was top 10 in Östersund. The name, of course, Alexander Legkov, in his 32nd year.
I must admit, David, I thought that we'd see Johan Olsen come through at the same moment. So it's 17 minutes since Olsen started that Legkov does. But I just see Olsen coming into the stadium. I thought Olsen would take 17 minutes first lap and about 17:30 second. But coming into the stadium now he is. So he will be able to latch on to one of these big names starting around now.
And interesting, Mike, Olsen actually at the 5.3 kilometre point, some 18 seconds ahead of Lucas Bauer. So out of the two of those, you can tell it's the Swedish man who's really making his presence felt here.
Very much, and he'll have Roland Clara starting soon. If he could just get into the slipstream of this man, I'm not sure he's going to be able to. That would certainly help his cause.
Yeah, Clara, again, he's been in all of the 15 kilometre races, but as you can imagine, the crowd and our host broadcaster colleagues just concentrating on Olsen because he is inevitably the pathfinder in this race. He always was going to be.
And look at him, David. I see him, his head, he's reacted in terms of pace to try and get up there with Roland Clara. If you can get in behind one of these fresh-legged athletes, it really is an advantage.
Robin Duvier ahead of Olsen on the clock, will actually equal to him up the first 1,500 metres.
Look at Schurrote again staying way over to the left. The edges of this 6-8 metre wide track, it runs a little faster. Your skis feel freer. Well, Finn Hagen, Kroch, I'm amazed they left him out of the skiathlon, but give him a chance and he'll provide for you, and I think he will today.
Yeah, he competed in this race in Val di Fiemme a couple of years ago, and he was 31st. He's going to be a lot closer to the leaderboard. Who knows, even a potential medalist, Finn Hagen Crow. But, you know, first distance victory in Östersund, you know, that tells a great story. But, you know, he's not a seasoned campaigner at distance races.
He's not, but what a performance with Petter Northug in the team sprint race, and he was a deciding factor when he smashed the rest of the field by, 9 seconds in one of the rotations at 1.4 kilometre.
So Marcus Hellner to give the Swedes another reason to give a good roar. The world sprint champion from Oslo, the silver medalist last year in the skiathlon in Sochi, and 4th in Whistler over the race distance of today, 15 kilometres in skate.
I was talking to some old Swedish coaches this morning, David, and they were saying he doesn't seem to have his aura when he's being asked questions in front of the camera. Doesn't seem confident.
So just to reiterate, as we see the 1.5 kilometre point here, Sergei Ustugov, the fastest man to this point, as you can see on the left of your screen, and Andrew Musgrave travelling about 21 seconds slower at this point. So we're slightly concerned, I have to say, because he looked very determined going out of the stadium. So I am somewhat surprised to see that sort of deficit so early.
It's a huge deficit. Muzzy has controlled that youthful enthusiasm. He used to start so aggressively. So I wonder if he's trying to manage that pace an awful lot better. I really hope so, that he can unleash later.
You just saw Matti Häkkinen getting away for Finland, and he's probably one of the Finns' brighter chances, as you see Tritcher coming through. And Tritcher, as I said when we saw him off earlier on, he's very much more known as a sprinter, and I think he will leak time from here on in.
That's not bad though, David. Tritcher, it's a very strong performance compared to anything he's given us earlier this season. Kroch, well, this is interesting. I'm surprised to see the deficit here so large after just 1.5.
Well, we know that
that's huge.
We know that Ustugov is already, sorry, not already, but always a keen starter.
He is, very much so. Jespersen, another one of those smooth, efficient skiers.
Third in Davos, 10th in Östersund, the first of the last 15-kilometre World Cup tests. And Hellner now coming up here.
Well, if Hellner, and who wouldn't feel the pressure when it's in all the papers, it's on television every night. Are they going to win? How many medals will they win? Expectations are huge. As I mentioned earlier, the coach is saying that he just doesn't look confident anytime he's interviewed. And you need to, like the American girls, display huge confidence. It helps you. He's off the pace there, David, by what, 10 seconds? 8.3.
Meanwhile, Johan Olsen has gone through the 9-kilometre mark at 21 minutes and 1.4 seconds. Now, that puts him at the moment ahead of, like, Clement Paris. We were talking about him making the running in Östersund and then losing, and now Paris is more than, well, he's actually 64 seconds behind him.
Magnificat underway, and the big names, the biggest of names, just getting themselves in the final preparation.
Yeah, Magnificat we have to respect today because he's more than capable. You know, 8, 6 and 2nd are his stats in the 3 World Cup races coming into this race today, and already 5th in the skiathlon. That showed his well-being.
Very much. I must say, I mentioned how smooth and easy Rickardson is on his skis, and now this is a good time for one of the later starters. And it's so easy. Look at the efficiencies, holding as much energy as he possibly can. Oh, it's still, well, 7 seconds, but 7th place.
Don't think that's a problem.
Amazingly, he was 150 to 1 by the bookies, had him as a complete outsider.
And now the defending world champion, Petter Northug. Whoa, already a gold medal from the classic sprint and the freestyle team sprint. So is this going to be gold medal number 3? Remember last year, Sochi, nothing.
Nothing at all. This reminds me, David, the way he went out of the stadium in Val di Fiemme 2 years ago, and he had an 18-second, minus 18 seconds at 2.2 kilometres. I wonder if he's trying to hit it very hard early on and then survive with the lead that he creates early.
Interesting, just to pick up on the early stages of the race, Rickardson, Legkov, Hellner, all travelling at about the same pace, within about a second of each other. So that's an interesting little timing. Dubiar, he's gone through the second checkpoint at 3.9 kilometres, a second quicker than Olsen, and Schurota is just behind him.
And this track profile, I keep mentioning it, but normally we see about 5 people in the first minute in the 15k time trial, but we'll see about 15 today.
Kalle Havalsen getting a big roar. I've just got a little question mark. I could be completely wrong, but I haven't seen that sort of killer finish from Halvarsen so far this season. Maybe we're about to see it now.
Maybe. What a difference what 30,000 homegrown spectators along the trackside must make. Jespersen, he's going to be, I think, about 10 seconds off the pace. But efficiency is what it's all about in this early part of the course. Legkov came way over to the right of our camera, or left now, well, as most of the clever, the wise heads are doing. It is faster on the edges.
At the half distance, Johan Olsen, well, I was going to say, actually, Lucas Bauer has steadied the drop of time. He's now 23 seconds behind Olsen. He was 21. So interesting to see now in the second half of the race, can Lucas Bauer do what you were seeing out on the track yesterday, putting in some really aggressive pushes.
He was really testing himself, and I thought how good he looked yesterday. Ushtikov, David, who started so well, going through the halfway marker, now 50 seconds off. If you go too hard on this track in these wet, difficult conditions, you just burn all your energy out.
Yeah, I mean, to be 50 seconds down on Olsen after the start.
After 7.5, yeah. He's better than that.
Now Magnificat in the black and yellow for France.
This is good. This is very good for one of the later bib numbers.
Got a good tempo and 7 seconds. I'm not worried about that at the moment.
He's a real fighter. Whenever you see Magnificat, you see him giving maximum all the time.
3.9 kilometres, and Andrew Musgrave 32 seconds down as Dario Cologna, the Olympic champion from Whistler, over this distance, and already a silver medal here in the skiathlon, and the Olympic champion last season, the 15-kilometer classic, goes out on his way, and all the big names have started. So Halvarsen, at the moment, if we risk discarding Sergei Ustigov because we know he's leaked so much time in the first 7.5 kilometers, you've still got Robin Duvillard, France, and Johan Olsen, so I'm going to take the splits off them. Schurota only a second behind them, Rickardson 7 behind, Magnificat 7 behind, as you see one of the early starters coming in here. Getting a big cheer from the crowd, and Semenov takes it away from his Belarus teammate, 36-12. It was Delidovic, and then Clement Paris now pushed down to third place. Haven't talked much about Belov, but he is another man who could factor in this race.
Very much, and look at his his efficiency on his skis. He's a star engine, he's a top class athlete, and this is a very promising start for one of these later numbers.
Third in the Tour de Ski this season, and that gives him a clear chance. He's a good all-round skier in both codes, and Glersen now coming through.
This is looking good for Glersen, David. I think this is going to challenge Olsen, if not be ahead of him.
Glersen at 3.9 kilometers, so halfway round the first loop. Glersen was actually just under 5 seconds behind Olsen. So he's cut back 1.5 seconds. So that's a good start by Glersen. He seems to be very measured.
And look at the advantage there, David. Now he's being told that he's only 3.5 off the lead time at the moment. Surely he'll find something special. And if there's Muzzy behind Cologna, if he can tolerate this pace, he'll have an advantage if he can stay with Cologna.
Yeah, what you're seeing from Muzzy here is he's going up to the 6.3 kilometer or the 6.5 kilometer point, whereas Cologna 11 seconds given away. But you would perhaps worry if it was anyone but Cologna, because Cologna is amazing at finding pace and finding time.
Do you know he is, isn't he? He's the master of pace, and you'll never see him doing anything wasteful in terms of energy, and you always see him stronger in the last quarter than he is in the first quarter. Come on, Olsen. Glersen's got all that advantage of being told he's only 3.5 seconds behind, so Olsen now needs to pick it up.
Yeah, so Schurota, now this is interesting as well. Schurota was within 10 odd seconds of Olsen, 15 now, so that's going the wrong way.
It is indeed, and I saw he was looking up at the scoreboard there, and maybe in disbelief. He would have expected, I think, a little better. He's picked up the pace, though, having seen the scoreboard and telling him exactly where he sits.
So this is the situation with everybody, including all the seeded athletes, having started there. And you can see Petter Northug in there, also about 8 seconds off. So this is intriguing, Mike, intriguing, because so much depends on the teamwork. What we're watching is an athlete at a time. What's behind that athlete is a whole service team who prepared the skis and coaches spread around the course. Now, if any of them fail or give wrong information or are slightly out, that can clearly affect the performance. And here, Clement Paris,
well, we said, I think, when he started, so strong. It's that youthful Junior World Championships medal-winning youthful enthusiasm, but the course is tougher than that. Come on, Olsen. Look at the fight he has now. He's very good in the closing sections of every race.
And this is what Per Ellefsen was talking about in the interview, the mental strength that you have to have. And no better person than Per Ellefsen, because Per Ellefsen was a world champion back in Lahti in 2001 over today's distance. As Paris comes in here, Semenov of Belarus will be delighted to have taken that scalp. But just going back to Per Ellefsen, a triple world champion and Olympic bronze medalist. I mean, he's perfect here to guide us as to what it takes to make the victory to get onto the medal rostrum.
Very much. I'm just watching Olsen going down the very fast descent before the final climb, David, and the track is much wetter, much more rutted at the moment, and he's still trying to catch Clara, Roland Clara, who's got the fresh legs ahead of him.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, but for a different reason to yesterday, as to whether an early start is beneficial.
I think it really is beneficial. Look at Legkoff now. He's plus 25 at the halfway marker. He's looking heavy, isn't he? He's looking quite stiff. He always does look kind of rigid on his skis.
But Mike, you said it earlier on. How many athletes are there in this field who've got the mental capacity and strength to go out and run a race like Olsen is running now?
Yeah.
So the wind is in his face. Look at the glide on his skis. The service team will be delighted to see that. The Swedes have been pretty well on the mark and on the money in their preparation for their athletes here. As he comes up here, and you can see full of zest, full of energy, full of desire. And Johan Olsen, well, we always knew he was going to be our pathfinder, but how good his time will be. Well, it's going to be 20-40 minutes before we know where he stands. But
oh, his legs are short. He can hardly feel his balance anymore. He's really lifting high on each drop through. What an athlete.
Yeah, he's just emptying. He's on fumes now as he comes in. Everything's burning, but he comes to the line here. And that is an amazing run by Olsen. 35:01.6 the time in slow conditions.
That was incredible.
Well, now, Mike, we really need to start watching the comparisons here, don't we? Because we need to go to that 7.5 kilometre point. We find Glersen 3.5 seconds. He was behind him. Dubiar 8.5. Shirota 15 behind. Finn Krogh 17 behind at half distance. So you can see how Olsen has turned the screw.
He's done so well out there, and it is a tough race when you're running blind. When I say blind, you're not getting splits of anybody, and you're starting some 15-17 minutes ahead of your main rivals in this race, let's be honest, and that's because he hasn't attended many World Cups, hasn't accrued many World Cup points. But I do also think that's his advantage, because the conditions were slightly faster. The track is breaking up, it's loose on the corners, but Glersen, his nearest rival, with only 3.5 behind him at the moment, has a good chance to close that down, because he's got all the positivity of giving the split times.
Now, Hellner at 5.3 kilometres was just under 8 seconds behind, and you can see that has extended, Mike, by 3 seconds.
He's doing well today, and you know, the tall and slender and light body weight of Hellner floating over these wet, very wet conditions suits him better than the big heavy builds like Petter Northug, over 80 kilograms of muscle and energy.
Finn Krogh hasn't lost too much, but he's down at the halfway stage by 17 seconds. Can he pull that sort of deficit back?
I don't think so. And I think the way that we saw Olsen savaging himself, attacking the final climbs, and he's planned this for a year, maybe longer, maybe 4 years to win here on home snow. But is it a winning time? We'll have to wait and see.
Well, Lucas Bauer was 23 seconds down at the half distance, and you can see that although at that particular point he sort of steadied the pace, at the last part of the race here, he's been found wanting for pace. And I think Lucas really is an athlete who needed to be starting much later. I think that would have helped him. I think starting as early as he has been very difficult for him.
It has indeed. David, I'm just looking at the 9 kilometres. Remember, it's Glersen who's chasing Olsen. It was 3.5. It's now 3.4. So it is a massive advantage that Glersen has been giving that split time.
Olsen, though, finished very strongly.
Yes, he did. He did indeed. In fact, just a few hundred metres up the track, Gleursen has lost a further 1.7 seconds, 5.1 behind him, and that won't do his psyche any good when he's been giving the splits are getting further and further, but it's still a long way to go for Gleursen. Still 5Ks to go.
So in the clubhouse, as you see, Heikkinen coming up here, and he's got a lot of work to do as well. It's Johan Olsen in 35.01.6. Lucas Bauer 54 seconds off. So that is a double deficit plus in the last 7.5 kilometers. So Bauer's had a rough ride. Semenov, who went early for Belarus, 70 seconds off. Dalidovic 101 seconds behind. Nusiainen of Finland also 155 off. Lehtinen in 202. For those of you in the United States, Noah Hoffman currently in the top 10, but 2 minutes and 35 seconds off the pace in the clubhouse, so to speak, behind Johan Olsen. And I'll try and catch up with Chris Freeman, 4:25.9. Might have enjoyed this more in classic style than freestyle. I think that is more his cup of tea. And Robin Dubiar, who started promisingly.
He did, didn't he? But and this is a great chance to see the Killer Hill. You can see how soft the snow is up there now, and I know they did salt it earlier at 11 o'clock, but it's breaking up.
And look at this. This is Stritcher. Well, we've not seen this sort of distance performance before him. He's chasing Bauer's time, as you can see. Well, he's right in front of us now, and he's taken second place. Oh, well, the clock didn't stop, but I reckon he has.
There he is.
Yeah, he has to. Yeah.
But that is one of Tritcher's best distance races. Well, to this point, we'll have to wait and see, but I think that will be a top 15, a top 18 performance today.
Magnificat at half distance.
This is good. This is very good. Could be challenging and could be the fastest time. It's going to be close.
But it was the fastest at 3.9 kilometers. I'm sorry, 5.3 kilometers. 300ths ahead of Olsen, and 5 ahead of his French teammate Dubiar, and 5 ahead of Gleursen, 8 ahead of Hellner, and 10 ahead of Schirota, 16 ahead of Krog, and 16 ahead of Rickardson, and 17 ahead of Jespersen. So that is a measure of what Magnificat has done in the first part.
Oh, and look at Gleursen, David. It was 3.5 at 7.5 Ks, and he's still 3.5.
Yeah, well, I'll forgive him for that coming up Murderbacher.
He had dropped it down to 5.3, so he's still absolutely in the race, in the contention for this gold medal. I bet Olsen just can barely watch what's happening out there. He's got an awful long wait in that seat when he gets to it, the champion's chair.
Well, if Johan Olsen, I'm going to say, if he gets on the podium, it'll be an unbelievable effort. I mean, after Kalle yesterday, who set her race plan a year ago, and now Olsen trying to do the same thing.
But look at this great man, Petter Northug. He started off like lightning, and he's burnt out like a little candle blowing out, because this is quite a poor performance for him at the half distance now. He's got an awful lot of asking to do of himself and what happens next. Big deficit. Will he just take it within himself, David? I don't know. He's got more races to come here.
Yeah, you've got to think about the relay. He'll want to go in the 50 as well.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, there's a lot at stake.
And he'll know that he cannot pull, even the great man that he is, surely he can't pull that margin back. No way.
It's very interesting how he's been successful in the sprints, but struggling over the distance. Nobody should underestimate what Johan Olsen has done. To go out and run a race like that is just about the toughest thing.
Yes, and to have gone so early, not getting any split times or very few of no one ahead of him, certainly. He would have got an indication of how he was doing some kilometers later on, if you like, and that's why he had such a strong finish.
Yeah, Musgrave, by the way, at halfway. Well, actually, Musgrave got him potentially about a minute and 14 seconds off, which is a real disappointment.
He will be totally disappointed. He was well and truly up for today's challenge. Looked good yesterday afternoon. Had a chat with him, feeling confident.
Yeah, and I know we, in a sense, bigged him up because we're patriotic and we want him to do well. But if anybody wonders why we did it with total reality.
He came 12th, David. He came 12th, of course, in the skiathlon, which is that's where he is. That is his bracket at these World Championships, especially with a classic followed by a freestyle over 30 kilometers. Belov, talented, fantastic athlete, but struggling a little when you've got this kind of deficit. It's very difficult to pull this margin back in the second time around these tracks.
And just to give you a little idea of the situation, Musgrave 44 seconds behind Magnificat at the half distance.
Interesting. Clarkson, David, I've just managed to see he's running about 8 seconds behind now. That was at the pre-12.8, so I'd expect we're down to about 9 seconds now. Glorson has tried, but once he starts getting these negative splits, he's still a way to go before this timer. He's trying, and he's really, really trying, but the clock isn't in his favour now.
And also something else which is really interesting, Mike, at interval 5, at 9 kilometres, Magnificat has lost 4 seconds to Olsen. So Olsen is ahead of Glurson. Magnificat and Glurson are travelling at about the same speed.
Now look at the legend, Colonia, such a brilliant balance skier, the strongest technical, I think, athlete out there. He's so balanced and such a strong athlete. 20 seconds too much. There's Muzzy.
Yeah, coming toward the finish, as I said, I've got him about sort of 74 seconds off, but maybe he's lost a few more. He's coming around. He'll be desperately disappointed. I mean, the 12th in the skiathlon was an excellent effort. He did struggle towards the end of that race. And maybe, just maybe, Mike, it's taken more out of him than any of us, including himself, estimated. You know, I know that was Saturday and I know today's Wednesday, but here he comes in. Actually, I said 1:14, but you can see he's leaked a few seconds as well. But he's still, by far, Britain's best ever cross-country skier. And he's only 24, so there are better things and better times to come. Yeah, definitely, and he's still learning his trade, David. And if you look at 2 years ago, he was 2:39 behind, and now I think he'll remain about 1:21 behind. I just want to just say, you saw the top two there, but I need to bring you to 9 kilometres because Magnificat Olsen is 4 seconds back in the lead. And at 11... Where is it? Olsen at 11.4 kilometres. Glurson 3.5 seconds back. And we're still waiting for Magnificat to get to that point.
David, I think that Olsen, over the final 1 kilometre in the stadium area, set a pace there. It was almost like a sprint pace, which I'm not sure anybody can match that. Their legs cannot surely match what Olsen gave within the stadium. Everybody leaking, as you say, leaking time.
Finn Krogh here. You know, at 9 kilometres, 27 seconds down. And here's Duvier coming towards the finish. Now, Duvier, I had him at 9 kilometres, about 20 seconds off the pace. And at 12.8 kilometres, Duvier 56 seconds off. Oh, so you can see what Olsen has actually done to the field. He's put them under the most incredible pressure. And the other thing is, they all knew that is exactly what Olsen would do.
And it's scary, isn't it? When you go out so hard, you have to be able to live with it. But Olsen saved something to put in a sting in the tail at the end of his race. I do think we have to mention that the conditions when he started so early were a little kinder, and again, you've got to take those advantages. He was bib 17, there he is. I think he's beginning to realise that there's not a man in the world out there that can match what he's done, and the crowd know their sport well, and I think they're beginning to think the same thing. But Glurson, coming in now, I think he's losing time just the way he's moving, David. I think he was at 8 seconds.
Yeah, Olsen and Tritscher of Austria. It's still in second place. Lucas Bauer third. Robin Duvier fourth. That's the situation now. Where is Glurson going to slot in there? You can see as he drops down off the bridge.
Well, I think he's going to be some 14, 15 seconds off at this rate. He's certainly not going to win it, so Olsen must be smiling a little wider now.
Yeah, because Glurson is going to go into silver medal position for the moment.
And he's totally spent. Alongside him is Tony Livers, managing a slightly faster finish.
Yeah, well, he's probably helping Gleursen more than Gleursen's helping him. And comes in there just under 20 seconds off the pace, Gleursen. And, you know, when you consider at, what, 12.8 kilometres where Gleursen was to Olsen, he was 9 seconds down.
That's incredible. And it's the final part where Olsen had some miracle input of energy. But look at Rickardson, he was on the left side and he went to the right side. He's trying to find more track space.
Mike, you know what frustrates me about so many of these races in terms of television? That we can't focus on the real contenders right through the last kilometre of the race. Because if we had, you would have seen how technically good this man was down the descents and the right and left-handers. That's where you can lose a lot of time if you're off balance and you lose precision. Well, this is astonishing stuff. And Olsen, well, even the bookmakers were respectful. They made him a 7-to-1 shot before the race began today. And this is a wonderful outcome for him. We know he's going to be on the podium, but at the moment we're trying to find anybody, Mike, who's going to depose him from goal.
Well, I thought it was going to be Magnificat. He was running, David, only 1.7 seconds behind at 9 kilometres, but further up the track, Magnificat has dropped back to 7. But Magnificat is an incredible, I can see him in the stadium area now, Magnificat. He's an unbelievable fighter in the last stage, so maybe, just maybe, Olsen's threatened.
Yeah, but I've seen Magnificat also only flattering, only to deceive, and here comes Helmer. Helmer, still 2,002 kilometres, but impossible to see him deposing his teammate.
Well, it's a good time from Helmer. Magnificat, I think, can get under... is under this, so he needs to keep the pressure on, does Helmer, but this could be 2 medals today for the Swedes. They've been getting a bit of flack, I must say. There's Magnificat, 4.8.
Yeah.
He's still in it.
He's still in it, but that is the 4 seconds that he lost coming out of the stadium, going up the 1,500 metres to 9 kilometres, between 7.5 and 9.
And this part of the track, David, once you got to the top of that killer climb, you've got a very fast descent to the right, then the left, then it's easy through the woods. But the hard part is the final climb in the stadium. So Magnificat still has a real chance. He's a real fighter. Olsen still can't relax.
Yeah, at 9 kilometres, what have I got? At 12.8 kilometres, Olsen by 9.1 from Gleursen, as it was then. And then Helmer, 28 back. Tritscher, 40. Boy, that's some race he's run. Then Krog, 42. Bauer was 45. Shirota was 53.
Well, where did Tritscher get that form? I know he's...
And Legkopf at that point was 64 seconds off the lead from Olsen as he comes in to finish his race.
A strong performance from Legkopf, and I think very promising for the relay, very promising for the 50 kilometre. And the conditions are tough right now, and a little more tougher than they were for Olsen.
The other thing which I'm finding quite astonishing from Olsen's point of view is the gaps at the moment, Mike. Only Magnificat, possibly Helmer, are showing that they could cut back their respective deficits. So Olsen could not only win this, but he could win this by some margin.
He certainly could. And his main rival now, I think, is Maurice Magnificat. Of course, Helmer running in 3rd position.
It's Jesse Cockney there, by the way, 48. One of the Canadians from Canmore.
What a place that is, Canmore. What a wonderful place to have as your training ground. A beautiful, inspiring area. Olsen's so nervous. He's wondering, what can the Frenchman do? Can the Frenchman knock him off his champion's chair?
If he does this, Olsen, I reckon they'll name a street in Östersund after his name, you know, because
So they should.
I mean, he's a great achiever on big occasions. A silver medal last year at Sochi, 2 bronze medals in 2010 in the Olympic Games, and then when he comes to the World Championships, remember, he was the 50-kilometer classic mass start winner in Val di Fiemme. He really is a huge achiever, as well as getting the silver 2 years ago in the 15 free. So he's just, you know, forget about the World Cup, forget about the Tour de Ski.
Yeah.
Just be there for us, says Sweden, for the World Championships.
And it's hard to do, but when you miss a lot of races, you're less tired and you can keep your eye on the main important thing. Krok is, and I think the crowd are going wild because they see now Hellner has a slim chance of getting on the podium as well. Magnificat David has gone through the 12.8 and he's now 12.7 seconds behind. Lost a lot of time on the descent.
Yeah, no signs really of the likes of Petter Northug, the defending world champion. He's never been at the races today. Heikkinen of Finland was another one who was on our shortlist, over 90 seconds down with just a couple of kilometres to go.
Amazing, and I think Petter Northug, it was a big risk strategy. He went so hard in the first 1.5 and has taken the sting out of his performance.
So Hellner, well, he's not managed to diminish the deficit, but what he has managed to do is to come home to give Sweden, for the moment, a gold and silver position on the leaderboard. He's going to push, as you can see, he gets into 3rd place there, Hellner. In fact, just misses out on the likes of Glursen. Glursen holds on to 2nd place.
Magnificat, here he is. This is a long glide. You can recover again a little down this section before the final but very difficult climb within the stadium. And I think Magnificat is losing time almost with every stride, every meter he takes. And I think the crowd, the spectators are picking up on the fact that Magnificat cannot depose this man.
He might depose Hellner.
He might, yes, he is. I think he will. I think he will.
Colonia, bottom of Murabakken, and you can see the time here. Well, that's very uncharacteristic to see Colonia in that situation.
Look at the climb, David. It's no wonder they call it Killer Hill, Murderbakken. It takes everything out of your legs, but the rest of the course in relation to this is quite simple. One big hit, and this is where Colonia went the other day in the skiathlon. He said he had to live with the discomfort, and of course got close to that gold medal.
This is the man we're concentrating on now, Maurice Magnificat.
The French staff are running alongside. They're giving him the split times, and he's finding something special.
Well, I said, Mike, that his performances, as you see Rickerson finish, his performances in the 3 15-kilometre races in the World Cup have been totally progressive. 8th in Davos, 6th in Rybinsk, 2nd in Östersund. So that is really going in the right direction.
It is, and quite honestly, David, when you look at Magnificat's number, he started down in 63. Olsen was bib number 17, and no disrespect to Olsen, it is running a little slower now. So Magnificat is having a fantastic race, and this is the difficulty. Look how deep this cornering is. That zaps the energy. That you've got no energy anyway, but it takes more out of your legs.
And that was something that Olsen did really, really well. And we could see it out from the window of the commentary box, but sadly we didn't manage to bring that to you on the television screen. Magnificat, 28 years of age, at the height of his powers, and he's been to 2 Olympics and 3 World Championships before today, but he is knocking on the door now for his best ever individual result. He's never won an individual medal at a major championship. He's a former under-23 15-kilometre world champion, but that was all of 6 years ago.
I think that all that Magnificat needs to do is remain standing on his feet and keep the same pace going, and I think he will depose Hellner in 3rd place.
Jespersen, and Jespersen now out of the medal positions, as you can see, and really everybody's looking for Magnificat. And this would be such an excellent moment for the French if he can get a medal.
Well, David, the Norwegians didn't medal yesterday. It's looking pretty slim chance they're going to medal today. a lot of questions will be being asked of their wax technicians.
Here we go. 12 seconds to get into the silver medal position, and they're really standing to appreciate him. 5th in the skiathlon. That surely is a world championship medal. He pushes Hellner of Sweden off the podium.
What a finish from Magnificat. I was saying he needed to look for the bronze. He believed he could take the silver, and he did. Oh, agony.
Well, Mike, that is burning everything, isn't it? It's the most painful, but that's what athletes give to be a medalist at the World Championship. And Petter Northug now,
well,
this is in a way quite sad.
It is very sad, and he's just taking his time. He's like doing easy distance skiing, and I don't think he'll gain a lot of respect for that.
Well, Frank, down in Spain, you said you had your money today on Krog, Northug and Olsen. Well, it's lucky you put the last one on Olsen then, because the other two really haven't come through. And as you said a little later on, he really is deserving of the victory. And here, look at this, you know, the Colonia, we were disappointed for Andrew Musgrave, but, you know, we're seeing great names running at a not dissimilar pace as Andrew Musgrave. So, you know, just putting some perspective into it.
Yes, indeed. I do wonder, David, I do wonder if the FIS will look at this, and I'm taking no disrespect to Olsen, but the red group, if you like, those main medal contenders, I think they'll look at this race and yesterday and say we need to make a decision before the race. Do we put our key players at the front of the pack? And I think they'll have that discussion after these events.
Well, he is the standout star, and there he is with the World Championship bib on him. Not everybody's home, but everybody's decided, as far as they're concerned, this is the new world champion. The title goes from Norway to Sweden. Norway, who stormed the early part of these championships in the cross-country, but now Sweden, little by little. Kalle yesterday, their first gold medal. Olsen today, gold medal number 2.
Amazing.
And this is the man himself coming home. And Mike, you pointed out that he really sprinted the last 200 meters. I mean, from the back straight right up the bridge and the final 100.
And David, you know, in that process, he nearly fell because he was on. He'd burnt all his energy, and he knew he had to keep strong because he had this man, Magnificat. He was given some info that at the halfway stage, Magnificat was breathing on him. And total respect for the Frenchman today. He, in tough conditions, did something so special.
And I gather, Mike, that the Norwegian papers are already suggesting a waxing problem. But, you know, come on, let's be fair about this. Fantastic race by Olsen. Brilliant effort by Magnificat. And Glursen, the top of 5 Norwegians, entered into the race. But 19 seconds separating the top 3, with Hellner of Sweden in 4th place and Finn Krog of Norway completing the top 5, and 47 seconds separating the top 5. I mean, these are huge margins.
These really are. It is a massive margin. I did think it would be tighter today, but keep mentioning the conditions have made it a strange one. And I do apologise, I think I said no Norwegian on the podium. Of course, there's Glursen there, and putting in a fine time indeed for bronze.
Yeah, Glursen on the right of your picture, and still 1 or 2 to come home.
Easily.
Yeah. And Petter Northug's amongst them. I just want to give a mention to Lucas Bauer again. You know, he's not finishing amongst the medalists, but at the moment he's holding on to 7th place, 54 seconds off Johan Olsen. So when you look at it in terms of position rather than time, that's a good race, because he's taken the scalp of Jespersen and Reuter and Belov.
And look at Semenov as well. We thought maybe he was a pathfinder early on, but again, bib number 3, David, an early starter, Semenov, and in 12th position at the moment, his season's best. In
the black race suit there, that's Colonia.
And Cologna's pushing his limit here, and maybe those around him not. They've backed off, saving themselves.
Well, he's just gone past Northug wearing the winner's bib from 2013.
And Northug is start number 65, Cologna 71. And Northug's just out for an easy distance race.
No, he has aspirations to run in the 50, but you've got to wonder now, where would he, on the distance races here so far, he's not produced.
Not at all, not at all. And there are men out there with, I'm thinking of many Norwegians who could have entered this race today, who have recently been racing well, certainly in Östersund. Holland springs to mind. I think he was 4th in Östersund. But it is what it is. And Per Northug, in fairness, he attacked early in the race. He put in a phenomenal first 2 kilometres, but then backed off when he realised it wasn't his day.
Well, certainly Olsen's day, and 1 or 2 other results I'm going to just bring you up to date with, because I know you're interested in those. Andrew Musgrave at the moment sitting in 16th place, 125 seconds off the leader, and that's ahead of Dario Cologna, who finished 136 behind, and he's taken Heikkinen Scalp as well at 148. So you see, there are quite a few who didn't have a great day at the office, but this man in a total, utter class of his own. Well, Johan Olsen continues to produce the goods when it comes to major championships, and, well, I mean, the celebrations last night for Charlotte Kalla were amazing. Goodness knows what it's going to be like downtown in Falun tonight, because I think it'll be astonishing. Noah Hoffman down there in 34th place there for the United States, but you can see 235 off, and there Erik Björnsson in 46th place. So Chris Freeman 425.
Per Northug 60th, the reigning champion.
Yeah, but he took his foot off the pedal, so don't read too much into that.
And Tritcher, I think I'm just looking at the sharp end again, David. Tritcher 6th position, the Austrian.
Well, can you think of a few more superlatives? Oh. I mean, Mike, you know, you're a racer. To do that, what does it take?
I think it's more mental focus, and the pressure was phenomenal on Olsen. He was an unknown, and I'm so surprised. The coaches, the ex-national coaches I was talking to this morning, said, nah, he doesn't really have a chance. But Olsen believed he had a chance. He knew that he had a chance, and I do think the conditions played in his favour, but he still had a fantastic race, balanced, paced it well, rested himself from the previous competitions. He could have gone in the skiathlon. He decided to opt out for this day, this moment, and that also puts yourself under even more pressure.
And what's interesting is, you know, he went to Östersund, only finished 5th there. He was 26 seconds behind Finn Krogh. He was 13 seconds behind Magnificat. He was 7 seconds behind Hellner. And so he had a reasonable barometer there. He was ahead of Glösen, interestingly, by 11 seconds in Östersund. So that was a really good run out for him, and it gave him an idea of where he could finish. But Maurice Magnificat, absolutely delighted that this Frenchman has now come of age. He's got that first medal, and, you know, may that spur him on to many more things, because France need, like all countries, someone up there, an icon, a leader, someone that everybody can look up to and say, yes, we can. And Olsen, well, freedom of Östersund, whatever that may bring, who knows. But, you know, Sweden now, 2 gold medals, Kalla yesterday, Olsen today. And, you know, this has also given them a boost for the relay. And one has to say, Mike, that clearly not everything in the Norwegian camp is right. And that is going to give confidence to the Swedes, where at the same time creating uncertainty in the Norwegian camp.
I think it will, David. And you know, you look at Olsen, you've got Hellner in 4th position. In terms of relay, they are, for me, certainly one of the favourites. Rickardson in 13th position. That's a good performance. So they really have key players, and I think they'll be looking to challenge and beat Norway.
Halvarsen, who can be really good on the anchor leg.
Yep.
Not so good today, but wow, what a race and what a man, because one man has stood out from this race. It's incredible, Mike, because Kalle was standout yesterday. Olsen absolutely stand out today.
All right, Johan, I think we're just going to call you Mr. Championship. that 50K in Val di Fiemme and now the 15 here in Falun in your home country. It must be amazing.
I think I haven't. It never really sunk in yet. I think I'm taken till tonight till I really get a hold of what I've done. But I think I had a good chance when I was starting so early, and I knew that the conditions probably going to be a lot tougher in the end of the race, and I was trying to be quite quick the first lap, to have a good first lap to rely on when I was trying to loop in of the bigger guns in the seeded group. But sadly I was alone still. But I mean, I felt yesterday from the women's race when we had such good skis, and I felt that maybe we have a chance. I think one of us is going to, in the Swedish team, going to get a medal.
Well, congratulations. This bib's starting to look good on you.
Yeah, thanks.
Well, Mike, you know, he's speechless. You know, because so many medals in major championships, but this is a really big one. And again, like we said about Charlotte Kalle, is this bigger than an Olympic triumph?
It's huge, and as he said, I think it'll take days before it really sinks in the size of the achievement and his success today. Certainly live with him forever, and Sweden will remember this one forever. At home, the special, the blue ribboned individual time trialing on your own, not in a pack, you against the clock, and he beat it. He beat them all.
Real superstar, Johan Olsen.
Vi har fortfarande neråkare ute på banan. Vi väntar in dem.
Well, Mike, as we see him literally galloping up this hill, of course, another proud person is going to be Anna Haag, isn't she?
Well, without a doubt, and so she should be. You know, they've been a great teamwork, and of course the little kids as well. It's a huge family moment for these two outstanding athletes. And this charge, David, up the final climb, this is where he, I think, stamped his final authority. Nobody can match the final kick that he gave. And there, it was all the way to the line. Not even the ability to stand once he crosses the line. So he gave everything, and it was enough.
Yeah, well, home for him is Östersund, but he was born in Västerås, so they can raise a glass there as well to him. But that was an astonishing race. It really was. And, you know, there are so few athletes in the world with that sort of preparation who can actually pull it off.
Yeah, huge pressure, and great when that is your dream and the outcome is achieved, he will feel so good. He could retire on this performance.
Well, just a reminder that we switch very shortly to Big Hill competition, and it's the qualifying for the Big Hill, on which no less than Rune Velter will be trying to achieve double success, but the Polish have got Kamil Stoch, the defending champion. Tonight, though, is all about qualification, and so I hope that you can spend some of your time with that, because that will be the appetizer for tomorrow's Big Hill individual competition. Mike, we always knew that Olsen had to be there or thereabouts, but that was special.
Special, memorable, and so impressive.
Mike Dixon and myself, David Goldstrom. Bye-bye from Falun.